In this video, we're going to talk about consent. If you'd like to have sex with somebody, you have to have consent. And of course, you need that consent every single time, for the entire time, for every single sexual act that's happening, okay? So when it comes to talking about consent, of course, we have the policy definition of consent, which is really overwhelming, so we'll break it down. But in short, consent is folks saying yes. It's everybody being sober, clear-minded, and willing to participate in whatever's happening. So it is against the law for somebody to give their consent if they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So if someone is drunk, but they say they want to have sex, legally it doesn't matter that they're saying they want to, they are not clear-minded enough to give that clear, informed yes. Another thing to be mindful of when it comes to consent is that there's an age of consent. So in Tennessee, the legal age of consent is 18. We do have what's called a Romeo and Juliet law, which is an exemption for folks who are under the age of 18 but want to have sex. And there's more legal implications that you should look up when it comes to that Romeo and Juliet law. But overall, that age of consent is 18. So let's break down this definition. Now, I really love this little graphic from Planned Parenthood about how consent is like fries, because I think it's just an easy thing to remember. So the first thing is that consent must be freely given. So that's in our definition too. It's a clear and unambiguous agreement, which means it's clear, you know what you're saying yes to, it's unambiguous. Freely given is also shown in this part down here that past consent does not imply future consent. Someone is choosing or freely giving consent every time. The next part of that phrase is that it's reversible, which means somebody can change their mind. And that's in our definition too. Consent can be withdrawn at any time. So even if someone says yes, and then as things are progressing, they start getting really shy, they start covering up parts of their body or staring off into the distance, that may be them showing the other person that they're not comfortable anymore. And so that other person needs to stop and check in with them and make sure they're okay, because they may have withdrawn consent and decided that they're not okay with this anymore. The next part is that it's informed. So being informed means that someone is clear-minded, sober, they're choosing to say yes, they know what they're saying yes to. So that's in our definition as well. So part of it is that it's agreed upon, so they know what they're saying yes to, they've agreed upon what sexual activity is going to happen. The other part of informed in our policy definition is this big section. And this section is talking all about how someone has to be conscious and clear-minded in order to give their consent. So any person who is incapacitated physically or emotionally for whatever reason cannot give their consent. The other part of this that's really important to talk about is that it's talking about if someone doesn't feel safe because of force, duress, threat, or coercion, they cannot give consent. So I hear this word coercion a lot, but a lot of folks don't know what it means. So a good way to explain coercion is to think back to if you were the type of little kid who used to mix those weird concoctions of anything you could find. I know my best friend's son does this all the time. He'll go outside and he'll mix together water from a dirty pond, trees, grass, like berries, wild berries, anything he can find. He'll mix it all together and make this really gross concoction. And then what does he try to do with it? He tries to find someone who will drink it. So if you ever did this, maybe you out to eat, or you know a kiddo in your life who would do this, they'd out to eat, they'd mix all the leftover fluids together, and they'd try to get somebody to drink it. And the different things they'd say to get somebody to drink their disgusting concoction are things like, oh, come on, if you really loved me, you would drink this. Or, I'll give you $20 if you drink it. Or, you're a scaredy cat. Or, when I was a kid, we used to triple dog dare someone. And you said you couldn't say no to a triple dog dare. I triple dog dare you to drink this. All of those are examples of coercion. You're trying to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do or something that they're uncomfortable doing. When it comes to sex, if someone is coercing someone else, that is sexual assault. That means they cannot give their consent. So if someone's saying things like, if you really loved me, you would do this. Or, I'm going to tell everyone we did it anyway. Or, what's the big deal? Everyone's having sex. Why are you acting like such a prude? Any of those types of things are coercion, and if you are pressuring someone into having sex, that's not consent. Pressured consent is not a consent. It doesn't exist. So that's part of that informed part too. The next part is my personal favorite, enthusiastic. If someone's giving their consent to having sex, it's because they want to, so it should be something that they're cool with, they're comfortable with. So in our definition there, that's shown in this: expressed outwardly through mutually understandable words or actions. So someone is saying or showing someone else through their words or their actions that they're cool with whatever's going to happen. And then the last part is really important, and that's that it's specific. So this is that someone knows what they're saying yes to. So this is in our definition here, again, with this agreed upon sexual activity. So someone specifically knows this is what we're going to do. It's unambiguous, it's specific, it's clear. I know what I'm saying yes to, and I'm cool with saying yes to that. Something that I've seen a lot when I'm working with sexual assault survivors is this idea of stealthing. So this is where someone has said yes to having sex with a condom, and midway through sex, the partner removes the condom. Well, they didn't have consent to have sex without a condom, and so this is now sexual assault because they didn't agree to this specific interaction. They didn't agree to sex without a condom. And so stealthing is a form of sexual assault. So all in all, this definition may look really confusing, but it can really be broken down into this simple graphic of Fry's, that it's freely given, consent can be reversible, informed, it's enthusiastic and specific. We also have a really great video for you to watch that equates asking for consent like you're asking if someone wants tea. And then lastly, I really love this quote when it comes to talking about sexual assault and consent. So of course, nobody wants to sexually assault somebody else, right? We don't want to do that. So if you want to have sex with someone, you have to have their consent. So you need a yes without duress, and nothing less will do. And that's really what consent is all about. It's about people saying, yes, I'm cool with this, I'm comfortable with this.